entrepreneurship and talent, we can see a new generation of more success and more fulfillment. Thank you.
That was very, very motivational, Queen Shoma. I enjoyed that. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Not quite sure, comparing your accomplishments to a footballer, I think you're a lot higher than a footballer. Lord Solly, former MP for Hammersmith from 1979 to 2005, and was inducted into the House of Lords in 2005, and is currently a director of Good Governance Foundation. If you'd like to welcome Lord Solly. Thank you.
I should also say, as a Member of Parliament for Hammersmith in the past, they have one of the great things about Hammersmith, it is about as international as you can get. There were more languages spoken in our schools than you could imagine, up to 150 languages in some schools, that many. And of course, one of our mayors in Hammersmith, while I was the MP, was in fact a Nigerian. And she was a very successful mayor too, I might add. So we have a lot of good contacts with people from emerging countries around the world in Hammersmith, and I still have those personally as well, and I welcome them. And one of the things that excites me very much is to watch particularly Africa, but it's also true of other countries, Southeast Asia, India, Brazil, places like that, the way they are now taking off. It is fundamentally different to the past, where I think we struggled with the idea of development, of how to do it, how to help, what was, and I think we made many false starts and was sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back and things like that. But now you watch the economy in Africa moving very fast, and the story is changing very rapidly. Indeed, I suspect if you look at the network of mobile phones in Africa now and the way they link into banking and commercial development, I have to tell you, you're probably ahead of the United Kingdom. So keep it up, keep doing it. Here is that we felt we needed to do more in a rather more sophisticated way with government, and my area of particular interest was the rule of law, good governance and anti-corruption programs. Indeed, back in the 1970s, 80s, we set up the Independent Commission Against Corruption in Hong Kong. That was the then British government set it up, and it was one of the most successful ways of keeping corruption under control in China and in Hong Kong. I got particularly interested in the rule of law issue, and what I've done quite recently is set up a postgraduate school of law in Abu Dhabi, Zayed University, with outreach to Palestine. So we will be taking some 20 or 25 students from Palestine, some of whom will be practicing judges and magistrates, to Zayed to do postgraduate law, which of course many of them have not got at all. And it's that sort of area I reach. Angela Wilkins here has done much more development on political development in his recent return from the Yemen and from Iraq, where she's been working there. So when I was asked to do this today, admittedly for rather short notice, fortunately I was relatively free today, and I thought, no, that's good, I'd like to do it, because firstly, for the reasons I've just given about international development and the way you're doing it. Secondly, about Africa, and I think we need to get the good messages out there, because there's been such a bad series of messages in the past, and people are not recognizing the changes that are taking place. We need to get that message out. And of course, thirdly, and very, very importantly, the link with education, and what you're doing here is really quite exciting. In fact, some of the work we do with the Good Governance Foundation is to link British academic institutions, colleges and universities to institutions, not just other universities, but to government departments and so on, where we can run short courses, long courses, whatever, to help them develop certain practices and things like that, which might be useful in particular areas of governance and related areas. So I think there's an awful lot happening that's really good. I gather you send about 80 students a year, I think, now to the UK, and I gather also the aim is to build up two-way links and to make sure that the learning experience is a big plus for both Britain and for Nigeria. and target group in good governance. It's basically those countries which want to develop particularly the rule of law, particularly good governance practices, which means everything including human rights and democracy and so on, but also the anti-corruption role. And that will vary with the country. I mean, I could give you a list of countries, but in a sense what I'm doing is reaching out to countries and saying, would you like this? And they then come back to me and say, well, yes, what we'd like help on. It might be slightly different. For example, Tunisia recently came to talk to me about the possibility of progressing a free media, and they wanted something equivalent to the BBC. This is quite a challenge, actually, but I accept it. And Burma, now known as Myanmar, also approached, but they're interested in the rule of law. So when a country makes that approach, or occasionally I approach them, we then say, well, what is it you're looking for? We will only work on these areas if we're convinced you're heading down the road of good governance, rule of law, human rights, anti-corruption and so on. If you're doing that, we will work with you. So it's an open-ended list in a way, and obviously at the moment what we do is very limited. We only started as a company, and we are a not-for-profit company. It's called a community interest company in the UK now.
In Nigeria, let me limit myself to Nigeria. We have the Senate, which is the upper house. What effort will you use as a member of the House of Lords to support the Nigerian Senate in the fight against corruption?
If the political parties at all levels can start making it an issue for them, you will begin to find out who your opponents are, who those are corrupt. You'll begin to see that more visibly, and the political parties at the end of the day can be quite effective at challenging it, but only if it's not so endemic that it reaches right down into the roots of the party. If in the Senate, and this is where my knowledge is inadequate of Nigeria, if in the Senate you had a group of MPs who were determined to stamp out, or senators, sorry, a group of senators who were determined to stamp out corruption, I would strongly suggest that they should, if they haven't already done so, form themselves into a very vocal group, make links with overseas political parties, governments and so on, and actually start making sure you get media attention. Don't let me pretend that's easy, it's not, and in some countries it's dangerous too. So I haven't got any simple solutions for you, but I do say political parties hold more power than you realise, because often you'll find there's very real anger at grassroots about corruption. People know it exists, they know it's there, and they get angry about it, but they don't have a voice for it. And that also then...
And it's still on the same theme of inclusion and exclusion. I would like to start with Professor's analogy of the teacher. I always believe that the teacher is the pivot of the society, is the axis. He used the word fulcrum. And without the teacher, we cannot have successful students. And whatever other job that we have been hearing about, that mentioned here, whatever other occupation, without the teacher, that is totally impossible. So thanks, Professor. Right up my street. And again, I'm going to borrow Doctor's education triangle. I really like that triangle, because we must have a base. We also, too, must have an apex. But what are we going to do with those students who do not make it there? Are we going to exclude them? Whenever you do not address those students, that is exclusion. And we want to include all students in that triangle. It doesn't matter how long they take to get to the apex, but they will get there. All of us do not travel at the same pace. So we're going to go at their own pace, and we're going to include them. We're not going to exclude anybody. So thanks for that triangular analogy. So we have to accommodate everyone. I heard something mentioned about fees, and that is the biggest exclusive. It's exclude all those who do not have the fees to go further. So I hope that by those who can, give those who cannot the opportunity to reach to that apex by helping them, by providing fees for them. And I think at this point it's appropriate to extend thanks to the River State Governor and his team and the entire board that provide fees to include some students. I hope we can provide more fees to include more students. I also heard the word voice, giving students a voice. How are they going to get a voice? Whenever we take that voice away, students are not empowered. Students need to be empowered. They need that voice. And without that voice, they would be excluded. But you know, some voices sing louder than some sing more melodious than some sing soft, but they're all voices. And whatever range those voices take, they need to be included in that triangle. Whatever range the voices are, however little, what we do, we encourage volume. When we see the shy ones, when we see the ones who want to hide like me, appropriately, not use it in a way that would exclude students from reaching that apex. We want to use it in a way to exclude bad practices. We want to use it in a way to exclude undesirable and unacceptable behavior.